Alright, guys, welcome back to another reaction video or something video, book review, I don't know, another video. My name is James.
Ninetailedbrush.
And today we are doing something a little bit historic. I know when we first started watching Harry Potter, I never said I was going to read the books. And that's completely wrong. So we read the books. We're going to be doing book reviews, at least for Harry Potter. Obviously, I don't know as far as if we're going to do this for future things. I know a lot of people immediately when I announced it brought that up. I have no idea. We'll see how this does. After we finish Harry Potter, that is definitely something that we could talk about. I don't know for sure if we're going to do it, though. We're going to be doing Harry Potter book reviews. So far, I believe it's going to be one for each book. I know a lot of you guys have said that as the series goes later on, we might need to split it up. If we do, I will let you know. We're kind of just going into this. So, Chamber of Secrets is up on Patreon if you guys want to go check that out. So, just like the reactions will be a week ahead. And then if we end up doing the book reviews in parts, we'll have to just have the second part be up on Patreon because it's kind of an extra thing. I can't promise that we're going to do like a 6-part review of, the final book all in 1 week just because this is an extra thing. But that's what we're going to do. Okay, so all that being said, I listened to the audiobook. You listen to the audiobook
Yes,
too, right?
we both.
One of our fans gave us the Stephen Fry audiobook, which is really cool. I know it's kind of legendary. So I'm a little lazy. That's what we did. We read the books. What did you think overall? Like, obviously, we're going to be comparing it to the movie because it's kind of impossible. But
yeah,
what did you think overall?
I'm not, okay, just a disclaimer. Like, when I say, I like this better and I like this, it doesn't mean that I'm, speaking in generalizing terms that the movie was worse. I like the movie, and I will always like the movie, but I am going to be, like you said beforehand, I am going to be more, I feel like, critical, and I think we can't really avoid
comparing it. And also, look, there's a baseline. I think the movies are good movies.
Yes.
Anything better is better than good. It's not like saying, because there are things that I already like a lot better in the books than I do in the movies. That does not mean that the movies are trash now and the books are great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just look, the movies are good movies, and anything above that is above that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I'm going with it.
Yeah. So personally speaking,
overall,
I honestly did enjoy. I think the book did a better job on multiple levels.
Yeah, I agree. I hate because I always make fun of book people like that. They're like, no, the movie's better, but I totally agree. The book, I think personally, was a little better than the movie.
I mean, out of all the movies, I feel like, in the beginning, the Harry Potter movies were a bit lacking in a sense, right?
Yeah.
You did feel that sort of, I feel like kid story style coming out of it, and you can really feel that in the movies. And I don't know if the movie would even be able to do any better, if they changed things, because the book has certain things as a medium that they are able to utilize that the movie cannot, right?
Yeah, which I would be so terrified. Reading these books now, I always was imagining, if somebody gave me a script and told me to make a movie, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I really think the only way they might have been able to do better is if they did it as a miniseries. Or a series, but that just wasn't a thing at the time. There weren't, big series like Game of Thrones or stuff like that, so it just wasn't even a possibility.
I also think one of the things that the book does a lot that the movie probably cannot incorporate is the details and the explaining of certain characters' thoughts, especially Harry.
Yes.
Right? It goes through his head a lot.
Yes.
Right? We're always going through his head, and it's looking it through his mind. Whereas in the movie, we can only do those things visually and symbolically at times, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really hard to do. But I honestly really enjoyed that whole thing in the book.
I liked the characters a lot. In the book.
Same.
I think Hermione went 1,000 times up in my book. I really liked the way they did. To me, that was the biggest upgrade. It was a lot of the stuff that happened was very similar. They kind of gave more detail. The pacing felt a little bit better, whereas the movie, just because it's a movie, it kind of had to rush through those kind of things. Whereas the book made you really feel this thing happened in October. Now it's been 6 months or whatever it is. Now this thing happened, and it made those big moments feel a lot more earned too.
Okay,
I think because the big thing for me with the first movie a little bit was that it was okay, he's just learning magic and he's doing all this stuff. Whereas in the book, you really felt him learning it, and so when he did do something, first of all, they built it up in his head as a very big deal, and then you felt as a reader that you earned that moment because you'd spent 6 months with Harry and they didn't know what they were gonna do, and then they figured this thing out, and it was like a big moment.
Yeah, so you did feel that like the book, allowed you to feel this sort of overcoming thing,
yes,
right? Rather than
growth.
Skipping a few things and then all of a sudden, hey. Yeah, I totally feel that. I got that sense a lot over a lot of things. Like even in the beginning, like spending time in Diagon Alley. Like you spent a lot more time in Diagon Alley.
Dude, even with the Dursleys, I liked.
Yeah, same.
Like I really liked how you saw Voldemort from Mr. Dursley's point of view. I thought that was such a cool... Like some of the other stuff was like, okay, they're spending more time, and I had been told a lot of the stuff, so it wasn't as big. But like I really liked you feeling like how big of a moment this was for the Wizarding world, and it was so big that it seeped into like the Muggle world, kind of. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was an interesting way to kind of like show bits and pieces of like the other side.
Also, screw frickin' Snape. Mr. Dursley is like a demon. Dude,
the Dursleys in general are
like I know everybody's like Snape is evil, but the Dursleys, oh my gosh, they're even worse than the movie.
Yeah. I mean, well, maybe because we spend more time with them. I don't know. Like they're pretty
just
bad.
Terrible humans. It's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. That is one thing though, that in the movie, in the book, I got a sense of things were more exaggerated. I
agree.
I feel a lot of it was more exaggerated, whereas the movie felt a little more like it was kind of an in-between, honestly.
But I feel like that's just the difference between the movie and the book medium, right? Like you see comics that are definitely exaggerated, and it's like you can't do Captain America with 20-foot biceps. Like that's gonna look weird on a guy, true. Yeah, right? So it is that like medium transfer.
That is what I mean. So it's like I feel like you always got to take that into perspective, whereas if the world is kind of exaggerated, you have to look at everything through that lens, Yeah. But the movie had some exaggerated moments. For example, even the Dursleys kept their sort of exaggerated, antics, right? They were very like holy,
Yeah. But like you got a little more backstory, I feel like, or they they make off comments like Harry's like, oh yeah, they did this thing, and I'm like, what?
That's true. Yeah.
Jeez. Like okay.
No, but yeah, I think one of the other things that the movie did was they added, things for I feel like Hollywood action sort of things. One of the things I really noticed was during the Quidditch stuff, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Quidditch in the books was a lot more. It felt a lot more like a sport.
Yes.
Like it had a lot more rules. Yes. It was more technical. There was penalties.
Yes.
Whereas in the movie, like I mean, you saw people basically going MMA with each other, right?
Which made me feel like, what is this freaking school?
Yeah,
like,
it felt a little like. Also, yeah, like you remember the scene with Harry Potter when he was first getting on his broom? Right?
Yeah.
And when he got on, it went crazy, and he was going all over the place.
Freaking what's his name? Neville.
Oh, was that Neville?
Yeah, when he got on the broom. Yeah.
That was Neville?
Yeah, when they first touched it down, he freaking slapped against the wall.
Oh, okay, that was Neville. Yeah, but I feel like in the book, wasn't it, like he didn't even do that much. He kind of like went up and then like went down and fell.
Like, fell on his face or something.
Like it made the school seem a lot more like, okay. Like, safe. We're not insane. We're just a little bit insane.
Yeah, the school felt like a normal, safe school.
Yeah, I was like okay. During the Quidditch matches, like I remember, people hitting each other with that like ball. I forgot exactly what it was called, and then, like kicking each other.
People getting smacked off their brooms like 60 feet in the air and stuff like that.
But like I remember in the books, like there was like a penalty, like they roughhouse some people and they're like, oh, that's a penalty.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that. I was like, oh, it feels more grounded in a sense, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I really liked going back to the character thing. I know we went on. There's a lot going on here. I'm trying to center all of it. I really liked Harry. I liked that something that I noticed distinctly, and it might have just been because of the pacing, is that I really liked how Harry and Ron started out as a duo, and Hermione was not part of that. Whereas I feel like the movie didn't do that as much. And I really liked how it was like, okay, this is the duo, and then I liked how Hermione kind of had like her mini arc from being that kind of like know-it-all like schoolgirl, and she like ended up lying about the troll, and that was like a moment where they like actually became a crew. Like it felt like an earned moment, and I thought that was a cool like little arc for Hermione in this bigger story. Like I really liked that like whole character thing.
Yeah, because the beginning scenes I feel like were changed quite a bit in the movies.
Yeah.
Because Hermione, I feel like, joins in the movie right at the train part, right?
Basically, yeah.
Like, she's already there. Whereas in the books, it felt a lot more, hey, there's this other character. She's, kind of here, but, I don't think you would know that she would end up being part of the main group.
Yeah,
unless you knew the movie.
It made a little more sense. It felt, at least to me, a lot like everybody has that knows that girl at school, and so it wasn't just oh, she's kind of know-it-all and annoying, but we're okay with that. It was kind of like, oh, she's like too annoying, and she needs to learn a little bit to like not be so much like that.
Yeah.
And then she does, and then they kind of like accept her because she like stands up for them. I thought that was really cool.
I thought that was really cool too.
I really liked the side characters. Like, they developed them a million, which totally understand when the movie can't. That's just going to be a caveat for this entire series. But I really liked how much we spent with Fred and George, and frickin' Percy. I didn't even think was at all going to be a character. I was like, well, I guess this guy's like kind of a big character in the book. Like, all the side characters had so much more. Neville had so much more, which then makes me like, I'm looking forward to the arc in the future, because it's like, in the movies, it's like he has this big role to play, and he has like that epic moment, but it doesn't feel as big of a moment, because it's kind of like, okay, we've seen you, and you've kind of been here for a lot of this, but you haven't really been like an active character.
Well, I feel like a lot of it, just like you said earlier, just wasn't earned. I feel like in the movies, he felt like Ron was more of like kind of like a comedic character. Like, oh, he'd come in and he'd kind of get beat up or something. Like, whereas in the story, I feel like a lot of the things were more like more serious, right?
Yeah.
And at certain times when he had to stand up or do whatever for his friends, it was like, oh, that was a big moment, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the movies, I felt like it was a little bit more played off, and the times that he was kind of being bullied and picked on was a little bit, at least in the movies, it wasn't as serious of a thing. It was kind of just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah.
Whereas here, it was like, oh, he is getting picked on, and then towards the end, he was trying to overcome that, and they're Ron and Harry were trying to tell him like, hey, you got to stand up for yourself.
And I liked that even with the Malfoy thing too. The Malfoy was like so antagonistic.
Yes, he was a lot more serious.
Felt more, but also it felt more of like instead of like, oh, this is the big bad bully character, like it felt like interactions obviously exaggerated. Like, I feel like this is a little bit of an entirely exaggerated reality. But like that I've had, like I related to like, okay, like there is that kid at school that you butt heads with, and it wasn't as much like, oh, this is this bully character and Harry's not doing anything. It's kind of like, okay, he would do something, and then Harry and Ron would kind of do something to get by. Like Ron and Neville like literally start like freaking fighting him in the stands.
Yes,
like, it was more of like I totally relate to that, where it's like, I've had kids where you just butt heads with them. They take every opportunity to make a jab at you, and then you kind of stand up for yourself and do something back, and that pisses them off, and then they do something else. And so I liked that. That relationship felt a lot more real. I related to that kind of a lot. Like, that was a very, I feel like, overarching school dynamic that, like, as a kid especially, but even older, it's like I could immediately relate to.
Yeah, I think especially that scene with him and Ron and Draco, I feel like they showed Ron as a much more loyal friend that is willing to like get into it with people.
Which I liked.
They mess with Harry, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the movie he was a lot more, I feel like funny and things like that. In the book Ron. He felt a lot more. He was there, dude. Like he was like.
Their
I'm not
bond
saying that
was really good.
Yeah, I'm not saying that in the movie they didn't have a bond, but I don't know, that fight scene with Draco when he was kind of like, it was cool because I could really picture the scene where he would just be watching the thing, and as he was slowly like getting more and more pissed as Draco was like, I don't know, saying what he was saying. And
Harry wasn't there to like hold him back either, because I feel like that's the thing too, is Harry's always like holding Ron back, and then Harry wasn't, and so Ron was just like, screw this.
Yeah, he was more that aggressive friend, but he was there to stand up.
I like that. Yeah, so that was really cool. What did you think about the whole like Harry and Hagrid relationship?
Like, okay, so it's been a while since I've seen the movies. Mm-hmm. I didn't think of Hagrid as childish as he was in the movies. He just didn't feel like that. I feel like in the books, he felt a lot more like...
I feel like in the movie, he felt like an uncle, whereas in the books, he clearly was like a father figure.
Yeah, but he also had a sort of kiddish side to him, to me.
Yeah, okay.
Like, where... Especially with that whole side story with the dragon thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Harry really was thinking about him a lot, right? And like he didn't want him to get into trouble and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And to me, Hagrid, he liked the whole dragon thing, and he was all like, oh, getting all emotional over it. But he did feel like more of how should I say? There was a weird immaturity, not in a totally bad sense, but just in a characteristic sort of sense.
Yeah.
Right? He had this sort of immaturity while still being someone that Harry could lean on as a father figure.
Yeah, which I think also helped really differentiate the timelines, at least for me. Because watching the movie, it was like, okay, you got the kids, and then you got all the adults. And all the adults is Dumbledore, Hagrid, but everybody. Mm-hmm. And then there's just the kids. Whereas, I mean, this is a little bit going into the second book, because I'm almost done with that. But he was a kid when Voldemort was a kid at Hogwarts, but then Dumbledore was still teaching when Voldemort was a kid at Hogwarts. So in seeing that, it, to me as a reader, it's a much clearer these brackets of okay, Hagrid's 40s or something. Even if I don't know the specific age, it's all right, he's a little bit here, and Dumbledore's clearly a little older, more mature here, and it's you start getting a clearer idea of people's ages and seeing the younger teacher like Hagrid or somebody like that being able to relate a little bit more to Harry, and there being more of that bond that just wouldn't be possible with a McGonagall or a Dumbledore. Yeah, and I liked that. I really liked Hagrid and Harry's relationship, and I feel because of things like the dragon, it felt even stronger in the book, and it felt like even though Hagrid was kind of a father figure as opposed to him kind of just popping up, it really felt that Harry was feeling that absence of an authority in his life, and even Dumbledore isn't really taking that
role
part yet. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to go in the book, but as far as the first two, he's not really there. And so having Hagrid be the one that tells him that he's coming to the wizarding school and teaching him all these things and telling him oh, screw Draco, don't worry, you see Harry, he's looking for that, and he accepts it, and then he immediately you can see how much he cares about it because you can see how much he cares about Hagrid.
Yeah. And
he immediately reciprocates that. And I think that was really well done, and I really liked that.
I did too.
But yeah, I really liked that. And I really liked, this is my favorite part, I think, of the whole first book, was the whole parent thing. I think...
With the mirror?
Yes. And I don't know, I don't even want to talk about how the movie did it, but the way the book did it was amazing. First of all, I love how you don't see Dumbledore practically at all.
Yeah.
And then, so then him showing up with the mirror at Erised is really cool because the first real interaction you get with Dumbledore, you just hear about him. They try and go see him a few times, but you can't. He talks at assembly, and then that's really it. And this is the first dynamic, and you get that little the charm that he has, mm-hmm. and the mystery, which kind of adds to it. And I really liked how I feel the whole parent thing with Harry felt really relevant. In the book, and it made me first of all really care about his parents, and so I'm very interested to see more that we find out, which I'm assuming from all of your guys' comments and filling in of lore we're going to find out. But it also made me feel really bad for him. This is a thing that is a part of him. It really irks him.
I mean, you could really feel the kid that misses his parents.
Yes.
And the mirror felt way more of an addiction sort of thing in the books, right? It was he really, wanted that,
mm-hmm.
And I like that struggle that he had with that.
Yeah.
That he had to kind of really overcome. It was a serious thing for him, kind of,
Yeah, and I think it was kind of a negative way, in a reverse of showing, which is really good and well written. It's a good story idea. I feel showing how much he doesn't have a family, and how much he, even now, even with Hagrid and everything, still is kind of looking for that. And the moment he gets any taste of oh, this is something that my parents did, and he wants to know. And I really liked that. And I liked that. I think that made his character and the depth of his character 1,000 times better. And it made me kind of understand him versus Ron, where I feel Ron is kind of a kid who's normally mature for his age, where you get this feeling that I've seen with other people, or even felt myself in real life, where it's when your life isn't as normal, or you've been through things, or you've seen certain things, there's this maturity that comes with it. And I feel I really felt that with Harry. in the book, and I really liked that a lot. And so you kind of felt like that's why he is kind of the leader, and that's why he is kind of like feels a little bit older than Ron, and even Hermione. Like Hermione's very book smart, and Ron is very kind of like street smart, and Harry is kind of the perfection of the two, and he's just a little bit like, I don't know, older kind of, and he clearly has kind of been through some more stuff, and I liked that. And
I do think, and that's one of the things I did like, is just the dynamics of the characters because of their like backgrounds and what they do and what they like really was consistent and came through their actions. Mm-hmm. I feel like Ron was that more aggressive friend, and he was loyal, but he wasn't as smart, right? Yeah. Whereas Hermione was more book smart, a little bit obnoxious at times and whatever, had pride in answering every question that the teacher would say, but she kind of grew into her own, and she was able to like give information, but one of her weaknesses was like, I feel like under pressure she had a lot of trouble trying to implement the knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. And then Harry seemed like that leader type because of what he went through, and he seemed like the more calm under pressure and the one that could lead the other two and have a more like, I don't know, clear head when it came to those situations.
I completely agree. So in kind of a summary, was there a standout thing that you liked a lot in the books you didn't expect you were gonna like? Standout thing, standout character, standout plot point.
One of the things, like, of course, this isn't a huge thing. Mm-hmm. One of the things I liked was that I didn't think I was gonna like was the little dragon arc, right?
Yes,
that was a lot smaller, and I don't think it was even as like relevant as much.
No, they didn't like acknowledge getting rid of it. I feel like.
Really? Okay.
I think he had the dragon, and they showed it, and then they just kind of said that like, oh, he got rid of it. Like they didn't have the whole thing where like
the tower
they went and snuck it up and gave it to Ron's older brother. Like that didn't happen at all.
Okay, yeah, because the one thing is like, you could really feel the effects of it. Mm-hmm. Harry and Hermione and stuff, and everyone getting caught. Like, for one, Neville, sneaking out to try to help them out or let them know that, I forgot if it was Draco.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, his bravery, that was one of the first times I was like, oh, dude, he's standing up. He's trying to do things, mm-hmm. right? Even though it might harm himself.
Yeah.
And then, Harry, after losing all those points, I think he lost like 150 points. Like, by McGonagall.
Yes.
Like 150 points, and like him having to deal with the pressure of like,
and everybody being pissed that he lost the cup.
Like, oh shoot, like,
yes.
I lost all these points for my group, my team, and just because I wanted to like poke my nose into something that wasn't exactly my thing. Yeah. But because of that, he had to make a choice later on of like, okay, do I go poking my nose into something that's not mine, even though I think it might be right, or do I try to save my face, right?
Yes, which I thought was really cool.
I think it felt very like connected, like, mm-hmm. oh, this is a cool thing where he tries to do something to help out Hagrid, who he loves, and it ends up him, dropping as far as status goes, and he then is presented with another choice to, do you do what's good or what looks good?
Yeah.
And I like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's a theme that I'm sure is going to continue through the books, but one of the biggest themes that I kind of picked up on in this first book especially is kind of the idea that, like, there are rules in place, and rules are good, but you also need to understand that rules are not always a constant, and you need to be able to learn essentially when to break the rules, kind of. Like, you need to learn when to think for yourself. And I liked that, and I feel like that was kind of like a very relevant theme in this first book, and I really liked that as kind of like a thesis point theme. Like, in a kid's book, it's not like some crazy, like, philosophical thing. But I like that idea. I think it's an important idea and a kind of a message, and I liked how they didn't go one way or the other too far. It wasn't like, screw the rules. It's like, look, these people are not all bad. It's not like the establishment of Hogwarts is evil.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these people, most of these people, even Snape, mean well, at least so far, and there's rules in place, but they also don't understand specifics of the situations, and you also need to understand that it's like, it's not always about the rules. If you see something wrong happening, you need to learn to make a move.
Yeah.
And Harry's rewarded for that. They get all the points for Gryffindor. Even the system, so to speak, rewards him for that.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So yeah, I enjoyed. I'm kind of glad. Like I kind of begrudgingly was like, okay, they want us to read these books. Let's see how it is. I'm actually very happy that we started. Like I was shamelessly kind of getting into it. I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Like, especially when they started getting into stuff that I didn't know, because that was the biggest thing. Is I was like, okay, like I kind of know where this is going. I've heard some of these stuff, and then when they started doing different things with the characters or the dragon arc or different things like that, like I really liked that. So I'm very excited for the future books, because according to you guys at least, that's kind of where it divulges the most from the movies. Like the books just get bigger and bigger, and so I feel like they could fit less and less in the movies. So I'm really excited, especially for the later books. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really happy that you guys got us to read them.
Same.
So yeah, we're gonna keep doing this. Obviously, we're open to discussion in the comments. Is kind of the whole point of this thing. So hit us up. We'll have those conversations and whatnot. We might do a few live streams here or there, kind of book related, as we go on through the series. This is kind of new, so we're kind of figuring this out as we go. As far as parts or different things like that, this is a very new thing. I've never done this before, so things may slowly change as these videos go throughout the Harry Potter series. But let us know what you guys think. Let us know if you guys want us to keep doing this, obviously, or something that you want us to do more of or less of, or focus, or maybe categorize the videos or something like that. Totally give us some feedback in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said before, early access to the Chamber of Secrets review is going to be up on Patreon right now. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys hopefully next week.